Welcome back, my people, to the second and final video of the Life and Legacy series on Simon Chopper Chimbetu. We're going to explore the legendary solo career of the man himself. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. By the time the Marxist brothers dropped their fourth and final album, Africa, there were internal conflicts seething between the brothers. In an interview, Nyson claimed that the pith of the conflict was caused by a new record label, RTP Records, which had offered Simon a deal to go solo. He didn't specify if he was offered a similar deal, but his stance was on sticking with ZMC because they were album royalties that they hadn't received. So basically, Nyson wasn't willing to leave money on the table, and he got offered a solo deal anyway by ZMC after Simon left. He took the deal and formed his own band, G7 Commando, and went on to release two albums, namely Ndivenikewo in 1988 and Mahobo in 1990. Simon Chimbetu took over the two brands, Marxist Brothers and Orchestra DENDERA Kings. He released his first solo album titled Kuipa Chete in 1988. Of the two albums released by the brothers in the same year, Kuipa Chete proved to be the most popular of the two and produced two stone-cold hits. The title track, Kuipa Chete, which was a track exposing the harsh treatment of black workers by white farmers, and Gomorisina Mchero, the latter which had a music video popular on TV rotations. He dropped his sophomore album, Oterekwa, in 1989, which also produced two hits, Pakatipe Gungwa, which had an accompanying music video, and Africa, which promoted African unity within the continent. As his solo career was shaping up nicely with two solid albums, Simon Chimbetu was charged and convicted of buying a stolen vehicle in 1989. Although he pleaded not guilty, he served his prison sentence at Kami Prison between 1990 and 1994. While in prison, Simon left the reins of Orchestra DENDERA Kings to his young brother Ibrahim Chimbetu, who was popularly known as Brahim or Gwimbo, and later on Alan Chimbetu, the last born in the family, who joined the band in 1992. At the same time, RTP Records continued releasing his pre-recorded albums while he was in prison. They released Ngwaya Kaoma in 1990 that had the ultimate classic of classic songs, Samatenga, and another hit, Spare Wheel. They then released Shurare Gwereria in 1991, Ndourawa in 1992, which had the hit record Ndourawa and Urautete, where he was singing about his conviction and maintaining his stance on innocence. They finally dropped Karikoga in 1993. For 4 years straight, Brahim and Alan promoted their new albums by performing live shows across the country with Orchestra DENDERA Kings. Simon came fresh out of jail with a hot new album in 1994, rightfully named Pachipamwe. Now, this was the beginning of Simon Chimbetu's superstar status, being heralded with the hit record signer from the new album. To catapult his name into the limelight again, Simon would perform for 6 days a week at Boomerang, The Tube, Mshandrapam Hotel, and Saratoga. It seems as if his time in prison gave him time to think about his brand, and he crafted an alluring image of himself and the band that included the viscose shirts and his famous Mazda 929 sedan, which was a Porsche ride in the mid-90s. In 1997, Simon released one of his best albums, Survival. It had arguably his best song to date, Pane Asipo. This was a song to remember the fallen war heroes of the liberation struggle, and it hit the spot. It had this somber feel to it that picked up tempo into a fast-paced celebration feel. This was Simon Chimbetu at his best, and in the music video, he debuted his cell phone. Henceforth, he was given the nickname Mr. Cellular. In 1998, the best album of his career and one of the best albums to ever come out of Zimbabwe dropped, Lullaby. Every song was a hit, from the classic Zandipedza Mafuta to Tenda, a celebration song about seeing another year, to Zimbabwe, Window, Coma, and the title track Lullaby. This was a complete album, an instant classic, one that cemented his legendary status and thrusted him as the biggest superstar in Zimbabwe. He accompanied this album with 2 brilliant music videos for Tenda and Zandipedza Mafuta. After Lullaby, Simon was filling up stadiums like Banzura for fun. At one concert, fans lifted his Mazda 929 as he was driving to the stadium. Such was the pandemonium whenever he showed up. He followed Lullaby with Africa Panorama in 1999. And at this point, Chopo could do no wrong. His album produced more hits with Ndaremerwa, Suduruka, Barika, and Kuyamamera. Entering the new century, Simon was a larger-than-life character, dominating the local radio scene and getting shows out of Zimbabwe to the UK and South Africa. In 2000, he decided to celebrate his magnificent run with a compilation album titled 2000 Blend. However, the album contained a couple of new tracks, one of them being Newspaper, that became an instant classic. He also released Africa Panorama Chapter 2 in 2001. As we mentioned before, Simon Chimbetu was part of the liberation struggle and identified as a war veteran. Now, his politics came into question after the Land Reform Program, or the Third Chimrenga of 2000, which was spearheaded by, you guessed it, war veterans. This led to sanctions being imposed on Zimbabwe, making life very difficult for the ordinary citizens. At the same time, that's when the main opposition party was in full swing. The MDC, being led by Morgan Tsvangirai, was where the ordinary citizens pegged their hopes. Looking back in retrospect, it's safe to say it was an ill-advised decision by Simon Chimbetu and his label to release the infamous album Hoko in 2002. It was an election year, with tempers flaring nationwide. The economy was in free fall, with ordinary citizens getting beat up for wearing MDC t-shirts. The people were demanding change, but on the album, Simon did two very controversial tracks that broke the hearts of his struggling fans. The title track, Hoko, opens up with a deep voice endorsing the third Chimurenga and claiming that the president, Hoko, can't be removed from power. If this track wasn't heartbreaking, the next track, Kurekachana, popularly known as Kusteta Oskure, was heart-shattering and soul-snatching. On the song, he's basically dismissing the hopes of the masses for change in support of the ZANU-PF regime that had ignited unfathomable suffering and violence upon its people. While they gave each other farms they had taken away from the whites. The people didn't take this lightly. They felt betrayed by the beloved superstar and hero whose music always mused and sympathized with the downtrodden. After spending nearly 2 decades singing on the side of the working class and the Marxist theory, in 2002, Simon Chimbetu jumped ship and joined the fight of the bourgeoisie. He had built his career on singing about the pains of the working class. That's what made him special. That's what made him a superstar. When he changed sides, his music career took a very deep nosedive. He went from filling up stadiums nationwide to performing at growth points. Such was the nasty divorce between Simon Chimbetu and his fans. In his own defense, this is what the man said about his controversy in an interview with Foster Dongozi. People just pretend not to like me for political reasons. They are still buying my music. And in any case, if I was that unpopular, why am I still being invited to the UK where I sing liberation songs like Hoko? I have always included liberation songs on all of my albums. So what I don't understand is why some people would now think it is wrong to sing such songs. He then closed his argument with the now famous statement, "When no one likes Chimbetu anymore, tell them to remember the good things that I did." Simon Chimbetu released his last album, £10 Million Reward, in 2004 to a lukewarm reception. On the album was a song titled Kikiri Kikiri, which was a plea to evil spirits to stop following him. Simon said the song was true and a sincere message to people who were casting spirits upon him and making his life miserable. To further confirm this mystery, Alan Chimbetu, in an interview with Godwin Muzari, described the mysterious happenings that were affecting the entire family. He said, it started with Mkoma Simon complaining about strange things happening in his life. He had bad dreams and hallucinations and was afraid of traveling. He was involved in a number of accidents. And the strange thing is that all the accidents involved donkeys. He went on to say, our father died a few days after complaining about a strange object that was choking him. And Simon was also complaining about a sore throat. These were indeed dark times for the Chimbetu family. Their father, Benson Chimbetu, passed away shortly after his death, in less than 2 weeks, Simon Chimbetu met his demise on the 14th of August in 2005. The death was supposedly caused by accident-related illness. As if this was not tragic enough, Naison passed on the 6th of March in 2006, and Ibrahim followed suit in 2007. Simon Chimbetu was declared a provincial war hero, and for the first time, and most probably the only time, a musician was given a national send-off. When his body was taken from Mashford's in Harare, in the early evening, the city ground to a halt. The block where Mashford is was closed off to traffic as people jostled to get a glimpse of the man whose music spoke to their hearts. Then from downtown Harare, the hearse went to Gwanzira Stadium, where a huge crowd was waiting. It was more of a celebration of a well-lived life than a death so saddening. Simon was laid to rest at Chinoi Heroes Icon. He was revered by his fans and referred to by multiple monikers. Master of Song, for his stellar consistency at churning out classic albums. Mr. Viscous, for his enigmatic and glossy dressing. Mr. Cellular, for parading his cellular phone, which was a novel and a big boy's toy in the mid-90s. Mukoma Sam, bestowed upon him, highlighting the deep respect he commanded amongst his peers, fans, and most importantly, his family. Someone lived a life that was full, lived the life of a legend, spent years singing about the plight of the people, and nearly erased his legacy with 2 songs. But Sulumani Chimbetu's success after taking over his father's band reveals how much his fans still adored him and will fight tooth and nail to keep his legendary status on solid ground. Simon Chimbetu is indeed one of the greatest Zimbabwean musicians of all time, and may the legend continue to rest in peace.